Hey. Yeah, I'm late. Really freaking late. Sorry about that, everybody. I completely lost track of time. Ay, ay, ay. Holy crap, that's embarrassing. Basically, I'm gonna keep this video really short, and gonna try and get to this as quick as I can. Basically, the first thing I have to start this off with is one, sorry I am so late. Two, and this is very simple, and in all honesty and in all realness, 6 days I did admit I was trying to work on this video. I kept reformatting it. I ran through my head for 6 days straight. I finally eventually just decided, okay, maybe I'll do an in-depth one, talking about not just how or what, but also how and why. But I'm really, really low on time, so this video's got to be quick, fast, and sharp, and I have to have zero issues on the first take. Great! It's like I'm back to my phone all over again. Eh. Basically, very simply put, the first preference I gotta make clear is that it's a preference that I don't feel like far too many games I feel like just aren't really taking it as far as they could or should have by now. I feel like the number of games that do romance really well is far too small and hasn't really jumped up by much, which is kind of sad. Yes, it's such a big shocker that he's talking about romance. No, it isn't. Let's all be real here. Everyone who's watched my channel already had bet probably money that was the first thing I was going to talk about. Especially those who watched my older videos. You knew it was coming. When it comes down to it, romance for me, it feels like there's just far too few games that actually do it really well. Whether we talk about, the early stages of romance or the, farther along stage or the middle ground phases, I feel like far too many games they just pick one or the other, and either the other stuff that wasn't picked is like thrown off to the wayside, or it's just completely ignored entirely. Like for example, Persona, arguably one of the best types of romance games out there you can get, short of a dating sim, I guess. The problem with Persona, though, is it only focuses on the early stages of romance, and all the other stages get completely ignored like they never happened, which kind of sucks, if you ask me. Basically, romance is something I just feel like it's always handled one of two ways. They focus on the early parts, where, you're either you do some light flirting, then you start doing some dating, but it never goes into that other aspects where now you're starting to get, you're starting to get a little bit more physically intimate, and eventually leading to stuff like marriage, kids, and all that other stuff. It feels like no game really tries to go into those areas, and the few games that do try to go into those areas either doesn't do enough. Fire Emblem, great characters in that game, but the problem is it doesn't really handle romance all that well. If we're being realistic, don't get me wrong, it doesn't handle it bad by any stretch, but it just doesn't handle it to the fullest. Is the problem, especially once they decided to gut the whole having kids bit. Once they decided to gut that entirely, it further boiled it down and further streamlined it. Having it so this way only the MC can achieve S class, I feel like that was a really dumb decision. It, I could go on, but I don't want to be doing this too long. I idealistically don't want this video to be long, especially since I can't afford that kind of time. When it comes down to it, another thing I have to mention is the world. Probably sounds stupid and simple, but plenty of other people just screw that part up. They decide to neglect it or just put it as a secondary thing. If your world's boring or empty or it's not all that particularly interesting, it's hard to get invested and keep locked in on it. Now, this is one that's complicated because I go into a rant about it too often, too easily. And this is one that sparks emotion from me, probably one of the most. Up there. Not the most, but up there for the most. Please don't ever say this to my face. You will not get to see a smile. You won't see friendly. You'll get a deadpan and at best a one-word response no matter what it is. To me, the number one thing to always remember, this is something that needs to apply especially to developers. This is something developers need to have written down and practically etched into their DNA. Oh boy. Single player will never replace the value of multiplayer. Da, 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 da. Wait for it. At the same time, multiplayer will never, ever replace the value that is lost by not having a single player. You cannot use either one to replace the other in their value. That doesn't work. It doesn't at all. When it comes down to it, but my point here is that you should never treat your multiplayer like it's supposed to not only be a multiplayer, but a replacement for single player that you could have had, but you didn't because you were either lazy or whatever. And the same thing for single player. Single player should never be treated like it was supposed to be a replacement for multiplayer. Never. Because that never works. It's a stupid notion. Alright? Look. Let me be entirely honest with you here, alright? If you have a single player only game, don't try to act like it is better or a replacement to multiplayer games. Because that's never true. Ever. I don't care how big on yourself you are or how big your britches have got. It doesn't matter how much your head and ego have inflated. Your single player game will never replace a multiplayer game. It'll never ever be able to completely eradicate the value of a multiplayer game. Doesn't matter if it's the same franchise or a different franchise. That doesn't matter. You will never replace it. If your game is a single player game, then let it be a single player game. If your game is a multiplayer game, let it be a multiplayer game. Alright? I personally love games that have the understanding of this is my game, this is the method it's played in. If it is a single player only game, then guess what you should be doing with your time? Instead of trying to make it so it's something that you try to tout as better than a multiplayer game, what you should be doing is spending that time making sure it is the best single player game you could possibly make. If your game is a multiplayer only game, then you should be putting every ounce of your time and effort to make that the best multiplayer game you can make. Does it have to be the best in the world? No. But does it have to be the best that you can manage? Yeah. Yeah, it does. That's the way it should be, in fact. And this is something that I feel like more and more developers and even some people need to understand is that a single player game should never try to outshine, replace, or devalue a multiplayer game. It shouldn't even try to do that to other single player games. Because then it's destined to fail. But if it's designed, the entire game is formatted around being the best of whatever you can make, then go all in on that. You're going to do better in the long run because you went with that mentality of it's not the best in the world. It's not meant to outshine or beat out other games. It's just meant to be the best that I can make. That's something that gets you respect from guys like me. Guys like me, we don't expect and demand every single game to have the world's highest end graphics. No. What we expect is for you to be a solid game with solid gameplay, as few bugs and glitches as possible. Not 100%. Some bugs and glitches are unavoidable. I'm pretty sure most of us have bugs and glitches we can tolerate as long as the rest of it is done well and complete upon release. I know for me, I can tolerate the occasional frame rate drop during some cutscenes and some occasional texture pop in if the rest of it is complete the way it should be. If it's done that, we can sit back and be chill with some occasional issues, especially if those issues eventually get fixed in the future. We can be completely okay and fine then. especially if, again, the game is complete and a full package from the outset. Not having features missing, no features gutted, no campaign stuff carved out and sold later. Just up front, it's completed, it's done, it's ready to be shipped. Truly ready. That's the stuff that guys like me value the most. It doesn't matter if it's a big, huge name company or a small indie company. We expect it to be complete. We don't expect it to be flawless. We expect it to be complete. That's the key difference. To guys like me, whether or not a game is complete upon release or not is far bigger issue than it has a couple bugs and glitches in it. That's a far bigger problem. If it's sold to us incomplete with stuff missing. To us, that's a big issue and a big smack in the face and an absolute ravaging of our wallets that's not acceptable to us. Especially broke versions of us. Oh my lord, it's not okay. I think the thing I want to end on the most, though, is this simple thought. I want you all to think about what it is you like. What is it a preference you have? What is something that to you is very important? Something that can be make or break in a game's development or in the overall experience of the game, even. Now, there are other things I would have loved to have talked about in this video, but I just don't have time today. And to be honest with you, it would seem kind of silly to try and make it next week if no one really gives an F, right? Let's just be real. If you're given a choice between rewatching this video again on an expanded edition or me just jumping to a different project, to a different topic, let's be real. We're probably going to choose a different topic. But I figured in case by some stretch of voodoo, power, magic, miracle crap, maybe you all want me to go and make an expanded version of this. Maybe. So I figured I'd leave it to you, my subscribers, who have decided to either put my channel in the background or, for some reason, watch the video entirely. You are awesome if you forced yourself through these videos. Fist bump. When it comes down to it, here's what I have for you. Alright? If you want to get behind this, cool. If you want this to happen, cool. If you don't, though, that's fine. It's all good. When it comes down to it, I think I'll set up a mile marker of a sort, an achievement. Or I guess punishment is the better way to phrase it. When it comes down to it, I think I'll go with this. If being a keyword here, because it won't happen at all. No. If, by some stretch, y'all can give this video up to 5 likes, if you can accomplish that miracle, which I doubt it. Let's be real here. You don't click on my videos so you can click like. You click on my videos, it's where you have something playing in the background, which is how it should be, how it's supposed to be, how it's designed to be. But I figured I might as well do something just kind of, might as well, because, if y'all can get this video up to 5 likes, which won't happen, I will make another video next week that is the expanded version of this exact topic. It won't happen. In that topic, I'll cover stuff that I wasn't able to cover this time, and even go into further in-depth explanations on each and every single one I've already mentioned so far. Won't happen. But at least I gave you that option, I guess. Next topic, I will announce later. And by later, I mean once I finish doing the editing. But it'll be largely up to y'all. Now, I do have to put a little bit of a timer, though, in it. I want to make sure to give you guys plenty of time, though. If you guys can get this video up to 5 likes within a total of 6 days, alright, then it'll be the expanded version of game preferences. If it does not meet that requirement, though, within the 6 days, I will be doing a topic instead. I hope y'all are ready for this. I will be talking about something wildly different. something I've been playing. And something I'm loving far too much and having way too much fun of. To a point where, if I'm honest, I'm thinking I might possibly start up streaming for it. Possibly. I haven't 100% decided yet. Although I do have a great name for it. And I digress. I will see you all next time. I hope you all laughed at me, laughed with me, made fun of me because there's probably a billion reasons to do so just within today. See ya, you guys.